From the Victory Studios in downtown Little Rock, this is Capitol View with your hosts, Roby Brock and David Goins.
And good Sunday morning to you, and happy Mother's Day out there. Welcome to Capitol View. I'm David Goins.
And I'm Roby Brock. Thanks for joining us. We are joined by Asa Hutchinson. He is a candidate for governor in the GOP primary. Good to have you with us. Thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be with you, Roby, David.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about how things are trending in the Arkansas governor's race. There's been some speculation that the GOP field in particular may get a little bit more crowded. So State Representative Deborah Hobbs saying she's considering the race. House Speaker Davy Carter still talking about it. Do you want a crowded primary? Is that good?
Well, I don't know of any candidate that would like to have more candidates in opposition, but these are all my friends. They're very good people, and it reflects the fact that, one, we have term limits, and their terms are limited, and then secondly, it's the first time we've had an open seat like this without a that we've had a governor that's been term limited, so it's wide open, it's important, and so naturally there's going to be many that look at this.
Of course, that first question we ask you about other people's campaign. Let's ask you about your campaign this week. Maybe a little quieter. I know you did the Delta Caucus, last Thursday. What do you see as kind of maybe the goal of the campaign, this far out? Do you take it kind of week by week or month by month?
Well, that's very important in my judgment to keep it quiet. I mean, this is 18 months. How long can the voters deal with an intense campaign? So it should be a quiet period. We're not trying to generate press. We're not trying to create waves or dialogue with the opposition. It's a focus is on fundraising, obviously, and also paying attention to, for us in the primary, the Republican base. So going to the voters that will be voting in a Republican primary, our county committees, Lincoln Day dinners, and those kind of events.
You mentioned fundraising. Great segue to my next question here. You raised about $350,000 in the first quarter. You're obviously in the second quarter doing some fundraising right now. Lots of folks are putting their nose to the grindstone on that. What do you think you might send a signal to some of the political folks out there right now in terms of what you think you will post in this next quarter, or how much you think it's going to take to post?
It's like a public company in which you have quarterly earnings reports,
right, and
your stock value goes up or down depending upon whether you meet expectations. So it's important to keep those expectations low.
So I should read that as a signal that fundraising is not going well for you. You want to keep it low?
No, there's two different things there. Fundraising going very, very well for me. I've really been thrilled with the response, and not just of my traditional supporters, but new supporters, holding fundraisers, longtime Democrat or BB supporters have been able to join with me. So I've been very, very pleased with it.
Is it important for you to hit $1 million milestone quickly?
Well, I think it is important to hit a $1 million milestone, absolutely. Whenever you look back at previous races, generally a $1 million milestone was the end of the year. And so now we're talking about whether we should meet that objective on June 30th. So, I'm not worried about the fundraising side at all. It is going along very, very well, and we're meeting all of our target goals. So we'll have what we need, and we'll make $1 million, in the near future.
Any concern about, I don't want to say out fundraise, but I mean, there's talk that, Mike Ross will hit that pretty soon as well on the Democrat side. Is there maybe a little bit too much emphasis on money this early out? I mean, what's kind of your feel there?
Well, without any question. First of all, you've got a difference in the parties as to how they raise money and the timing of how that all comes about, and candidates are different. It's not like I don't have anything else to do in life. And Vic Snyder, look at the success that he had, and he made it his principled position that he would not raise money. What was it, 90 days before filing period or something like that? And so every candidate, every race has its own flow to it. And so I don't think you should create those artificial expectations. But like what I was saying is that people have a life. And other people are focused on other things. I'm focused on a lot of things in my life. We're going to raise the money. It's just a question of when that money comes in.
All right, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come back for more with Asa Hutchinson, including his thoughts on the gun control debate, maybe even a little on immigration. I'm Roby Brock alongside David Goins. You're watching Capitol View on Sunday morning on KARK.
Farm Bureau helps protect its members in more ways than you might think. They've always been the voice of agriculture in Arkansas, working on behalf of folks like me when nobody else would. And Farm Bureau stands for the values that Arkansas families care about. They've protected my right to farm and make a living, which helps everybody who likes food on the table. You know what they say, Arkansas counts on agriculture, and agriculture counts on Farm Bureau.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View. I'm Roby Brock.
And I'm David Goins. We're rejoined by Republican governor candidate Asa Hutchinson. Let's just jump right into some things in Washington. There's been a lot of talks about the revival potentially of expanded background checks. Obviously, this was a very well-documented vote that Senator Mark Pryor voted no on the Manchin-Toomey bill. He said last week in Little Rock when he was here, if there's some type of maybe revival or compromise, some type of change to that bill, he would take a look at it. From your estimation, do you think that there's maybe a palatable desire to take a look at this again from the work obviously you did with the NRA?
I don't think there's any realistic chance of passing gun control legislation in Washington in this environment. The vote failed before. I think people realize we ought to be concentrating on safety of our society and not putting more restrictions on the private citizens. I believe that President Obama and Mayor Bloomberg are going to continue to politicize this issue, and I think their agenda is to divide America. I think their issue is to destroy the NRA and that political force out there that's really fighting for Second Amendment freedom. So I think it's more about next year's congressional elections than it is about getting meaningful legislation through Congress or trying to do something that's effective for increasing safety.
At the same time, though, when you look at public polling on this, particularly with the high-profile incidents that we have seen from the tragic school shootings or Gabby Giffords and some of those high-profile events, there seems to be public sentiment there for something as simple as an expanded background check. At the same time, a lot of firearm-related homicides and violence are on the decline when you actually look at the statistics. How do you reconcile that when you're talking to voters and to maybe put it in proper context?
Well, you have to explain what it means by a background check, because in concept we all favor a background check that does not allow a convicted felon or someone adjudicated mentally ill to get a firearm. But right now we have that requirement at gun shows if there's a federal licensed firearm dealer or in a gun shop. But it's the private transactions, it's the casual transactions. If somebody lives 30 miles outside of town, wants to transfer a shotgun to a farmer, do they want to drive 30 miles into town, see a dealer, do a background check, pay a fee, and the legislation would have required that farmer to keep records so ATF could inspect it. That's where you get the unreasonable burden, and so it's in the details, and that's why that was rejected.
You were obviously down in Houston at the NRA convention late last week. We have a little bit of sound from Wayne LaPierre, obviously, and he kind of talked about his thoughts on maybe gun control, gun rights related to Boston. Let's take a listen.
How many Bostonians wish they had a gun 2 weeks ago? How many other Americans now ponder that life or death question?
Appropriate to bring that up, you think?
Well, that's what President Obama has brought up as the reason that we ought to control firearms in our society. So I think it's also appropriate to bring the tragedy up to say we need to increase school safety, which is the message that I have conveyed. You could have played my clip as I spoke to the convention and really talked about what we're doing on school safety and the commitment of the NRA. I had so many schools in Arkansas call me up and say, hey, we're interested. Look at the National School Shield website. Once you get past my video, you'll see about 100 pages of best practices in there that really help our schools and as they try to address the issue of safety.
LaPierre's soundbite, though, was not that much different than what Representative Nate Bell tweeted about people in Boston wishing that they had guns, yet it didn't seem to spark the same type of reaction. I mean, should Representative Bill have been condemned for his comment?
Well, one, I have to confess, I did not hear all of Wayne LaPierre's comments. I couldn't hear the audio on that. But in reference to nobody should politicize a tragedy. Absolutely not. And then, you know, with the Boston bombers and the difficulty that Boston community went through, they need to have a little bit of space. We've got to be respectful of that, absolutely. But the fact is, you know, we have to look at our culture here in Arkansas, in Middle America, which is different than the East and West Coast, and we love our firearms because they're Second Amendment privileges. We like our hunting ability, and we like to be able to protect ourselves. Those are good rights we ought to stand behind.
Asa Hutchinson, we'll leave it there. Obviously, we'll let you maybe have a little bit of a summer break. We'll keep very close tabs on the campaign, and we hope to have you back on Capitol View at some point.
Always good to be with you.
Thanks very much.